You know that amazing feeling when you're with someone and everything just seems to flow? You mesh so well and being with them is just effortless? It's nice, right? Yes, it really is. But it's not like that all of the time, even in the healthiest relationships. No two people are exactly the same, no matter how in sync they might seem, which is why conflict in relationships is very, very normal. We're going to have different views, different values and interests, and ways of communicating. So we need to find a healthy way to resolve these conflicts when they flare. Now, many people see conflict as inherently detrimental, but it can also be a great opportunity for growth if we actually learn from it. The problem is that conflict tends to have a heavy mental toll on us, right? Some people, well, they can't stand conflict at all, while others bury their emotions post-confrontation. So finding two people who are in the mood to work through their issues at the same time can be kind of hard. You need your emotional and physical energy to feel up to that kind of thing. And what's more is that conflict, it triggers our body's stress responses, releasing a rush of hormones. You might have felt that rapid heart rate, the flushed cheeks, or the shaky hands when an argument gets kind of heated. And that's because our brain goes into a sort of fight or flight, freeze or fawn mode, thinking it needs to protect us. Over time, if we're constantly in conflict, this can lead to chronic stress, which we know isn't great for our health. And unresolved conflicts? They're maddening. As much as you try to ignore it and move on and pretend to be happy, you just can't shake that lingering feeling that something is amiss. The more that conflict builds up, the greater the strain on our relationships. Now, we might try to avoid certain topics or even the person altogether, leading to an emotional distance. Or these unresolved issues could erupt unexpectedly over something totally minor because, in reality, they're rooted in a much deeper problem. The only way we can work through conflict is by talking about it. You have to find a resolution that works for the both of you. And sometimes, setting a date to talk about it is better than trying to work through it during the argument or even right after. Say, this evening at 8 p.m., let's have dinner and try to work through what happened, why it happened, and why we said the things we said. You need that time to be able to understand how you were affected by how you acted. You see, our beliefs and perspectives are shaped by a mix of our upbringing, our personal experiences, culture, and even biology. These beliefs form our worldview, our personal truths. When these truths are challenged, our brain sees it as a threat to our identity. And this is why we sometimes struggle to see another person's point of view. Accepting their perspective might mean reconstructing our own beliefs, which feels very uncomfortable and sometimes even unsafe. It's important to remember that different perspectives don't necessarily mean that one is right and the other is wrong. The stigma and heaviness that comes with conflict stops us from seeing that, firstly, conflict is normal, and secondly, it can be a great opportunity to learn more about yourself, about your partner or friend, and what triggers the both of you. When we encounter conflict, we're forced to confront parts of ourselves or our relationships that we might prefer to avoid. As individuals, this confrontation can help us to identify our biases, our trigger points, or areas where our beliefs might be a little bit rigid. It's kind of like turning a spotlight on the parts of ourselves we haven't given much attention to. We start asking, why does this particular issue bother me so much? Why am I reacting this way? In addressing these questions, we often unearth deeper insecurities, past traumas, or ingrained beliefs, and addressing them can lead to profound personal growth. Because in relationships, conflict acts as a mirror, reflecting the dynamics between the involved parties. It can highlight areas where there's a lack of understanding or mismatched expectations. When approached constructively, addressing these issues can lead to a deeper understanding and connection between people. By working through conflicts, we effectively level up the relationship, establishing new norms and better communication patterns. If we can shift our idea of what conflict means and how bad it is, then approaching these conversations, they won't come with a feeling of dread, it'll come with a feeling of interest and fascination. When you're ready for the conversation, make sure you sit down and listen actively. Have you truly heard what the other person is saying without immediately thinking of a response in your head? Just listen to them. Deeply understand their perspective, even if you disagree with it. Then, when it's your turn to talk, as much as possible, try to stick to I statements, instead of saying, "You always do this," which can sound very accusatory. Instead, go for something like, "I feel hurt when this happens." It conveys feelings without pointing fingers. Then you have to ask questions. This is your chance to clarify what you mean and what the other person means. Don't make any assumptions or draw your own conclusions. And of course, stay calm, which is easier said than done, but needs to be said nonetheless. When our emotions run high, our ability to think rationally, it flies out the window. So take as many deep breaths as you need. Have your favorite snack with you, and even go for a break if you need to collect your thoughts at any point. The more you dig deep and work through things, the less conflict you're going to have. But it requires that active effort and making progress, not just brushing things under the rug for the sake of temporary peace. It'll all be worth it once you get the hang of conflict resolution. You'll learn that conflicts don't have to leave you with feelings of dread or despair. It can be a time for introspection and reflection, and then working things out. We won't go as far as calling it fun, but at least once you've worked on the skills, you're not going to feel like you're marching to your own funeral every time you have to deal with a conflict. And that alone is a pretty big win in life if you ask us. Until next time, my friend, take care.